Beloved, we stand at the doorway of a season radiant with promise, for September ushers in a tide of abundance that flows swiftly and surely. Large sums are coming, and they come not as a trickle but as a river overflowing its banks. Life itself is a great giver, always seeking to pour blessings upon those who open their hands in faith and expectation. The mind that believes in lack sees only scarcity, yet the soul attuned to divine supply beholds harvest where others see emptiness. September is not simply a month upon the calendar. It is an emblem of fruition, the gathering in of that which has been planted long before. When one lives in harmony with divine law, every need is met before it is spoken, and every desire of the heart is already answered in the invisible. Large sums come not by striving, nor by anxious labor, but by alignment with the infinite source. It is the invisible currents that carry our ships into harbors of prosperity. To doubt these currents is to anchor in shallow waters, but to trust them is to sail forth boldly, knowing the tide is already set in our favor. September whispers of trust fulfilled, of promises ripened, of treasures that have waited patiently to reveal themselves. Money is not a cold and distant thing. It is energy, alive, responsive, eager to serve the soul that calls it forth without fear or hesitation. When we speak words of faith, we command this energy into form, shaping it into the currency of opportunity, the security of provision, the joy of unexpected gifts. Large sums are coming, and they come easily, for nothing resists the one who stands firm in the knowing that supply is endless. As the leaves turn golden, so too does the field of consciousness turn to gold, reflecting the richness already within. Many look to September as the closing of a season, yet in truth it is a great opening. The air shifts, and with it the vibration of plenty moves more swiftly into manifestation. The heart that has long prepared in silence will find itself rewarded with sudden harvest. Large sums appear through avenues unimagined, through channels never considered, through doors that seem to open of their own accord. The universe delights in surprising the expectant soul, delivering abundance in ways that leave no doubt of divine orchestration. Fear says, "It cannot be done," but faith replies, "It is already done." The coming of large sums is not a future promise but a present reality awaiting recognition. Just as fruit ripens unseen before it appears on the branch, so too has supply already been prepared in the unseen, waiting for the moment of unveiling. September is that unveiling, the month when the invisible becomes visible, when the long-awaited supply steps forth boldly into the light of our lives. Large sums are coming, not by chance but by law, and the law cannot fail. Large sums flow by divine law, not struggle. This truth overturns the common belief that wealth must be wrestled from the world through constant toil, worry, and endless striving. The human mind, conditioned by centuries of fear, often equates abundance with hard labor, with long hours, with sacrifice and depletion. Yet the divine design was never built upon exhaustion. The law of supply is as certain as the law of gravity, and once understood, it functions with ease and precision, bringing prosperity to those who align with it. Struggle is a distortion, a fog created by the belief in separation from the source. When one believes they are disconnected from the infinite reservoir, they cling to effort as though it were the only rope holding them to survival. But survival is not the divine promise, fulfillment is. Plenty is not earned in sweat alone but in thought, in spoken word, in alignment with the universal law that says abundance flows where faith abides. To understand this law, one must first recognize that the universe is ordered, not chaotic. Every leaf on a tree unfolds according to pattern. Every wave upon the shore follows rhythm, every star holds to its orbit. There is no strain in this perfection. The sun does not struggle to rise, the river does not wrestle to flow, the seed does not agonize to break forth from the soil. Life is sustained by effortless law, and abundance is part of that law. Money, wealth, opportunities, resources, all are streams within the great river of supply. They are not generated by frantic pursuit, but drawn into one's experience by magnetic alignment with truth. Just as a magnet pulls iron without effort, So too does the soul aligned with divine law draw wealth without strain. The false belief that one must chase money, beg for it, manipulate for it, or fear its absence, places the individual outside the rhythm of law. But the one who sees that abundance is already guaranteed, who affirms that large sums are flowing here and now, steps into the stream where wealth naturally rushes forth. Struggle is often celebrated in the world as noble, yet it is a sign of disconnection from law. The ant builds its hill without despair. The bee gathers nectar without complaint. The planet spins without resistance. The same ease that governs creation governs prosperity. When one holds thoughts of fear, lack, and limitation, the flow is dammed. But when one releases fear and rests in the knowing that divine law is unfailing, the dam breaks and abundance pours forth in torrents. The effort required is not physical strain but mental discipline, the watchfulness to guard thought and word against the poison of doubt. The struggle most people endure is not with the outer world, but with their own inner disbelief. They toil outwardly because they cannot yet believe inwardly. But once faith becomes established, outer toil fades, replaced by inspired action. Action that feels light, guided, and fruitful. This is the difference between working against the tide and sailing with it. Large sums flow by divine law because supply is infinite. Just as the ocean cannot be emptied by 1,000 vessels drawing water at once, so too the divine reservoir cannot be diminished by the demands of millions. Every soul is connected to this endless source, and lack exists only in perception, never in reality. Struggle arises when individuals fight over appearances, clinging to the illusion that resources are scarce. Yet when one understands the law, they see that wealth does not come from limited appearances, but from the unseen source, the origin of all. To depend solely upon visible channels is to invite worry, for channels dry up and change. But to depend upon law is to stand secure, for the law never alters. Large sums may arrive through jobs, through gifts, through opportunities, through channels beyond imagination, but the channel is never the supply. The law is the supply. To struggle for money is to cling to channels. To align with law is to rest in the certainty that new channels will always open. The law works through belief, through spoken word, through expectation. When one affirms with unwavering conviction that large sums of money are flowing to them, the law is set in motion. Struggle is eliminated because there is no need to force manifestation into being. It is already being drawn by the vibration of faith. Just as a seed planted in good soil cannot help but grow, so too does affirmation planted in faith produce its harvest. The seed does not struggle to become a tree, it unfolds naturally according to law. So does wealth unfold naturally when planted in the soil of belief. The world may scoff and insist that only toil produces riches, but the one who understands law knows that toil without faith leads only to more toil, while faith without struggle draws effortless supply. Consider how often wealth comes unexpectedly, not through calculated strain but through unforeseen avenues. An inheritance, a gift, a chance opportunity, a sudden promotion, a creative idea. These are demonstrations of divine law at work, moving beyond human planning to deliver what is needed. Struggle could never have orchestrated such blessings, only alignment could. Large sums flow by divine law, and often they arrive suddenly, as though from nowhere, to remind the soul that supply is never earned, only received. To earn suggests conditionality, but divine law is unconditional, as steady as the rising sun, as sure as the tide. One must release the belief that money comes by suffering. That belief has bound humanity for centuries, keeping men and women in chains of endless labor, believing themselves unworthy of ease. Yet divine law delights in ease. It is not lazy ease, not idleness, but the ease of harmony, of right action flowing from faith. Struggle drains energy, while alignment replenishes it. Struggle speaks of fear, alignment speaks of confidence. Large sums flow when the soul rests in this confidence, when it knows without doubt that supply is present, flowing, and abundant. To struggle is to resist, to align is to allow. The difference is as great as night and day, for one leads to exhaustion, the other to fulfillment. September marks harvest and fruition. This sacred month carries with it the vibration of gathering, of reaping what has long been sown, of seeing invisible seeds take shape in visible form. Life itself is built upon the principle of cycles, and September is the cycle of manifestation, the time when intentions planted in faith begin to ripen into tangible blessings. The farmer does not despair when he sows his seed, for he trusts the soil, the rain, and the sun. He knows the harvest will come in its appointed season. Likewise, those who plant thoughts of abundance, words of prosperity, and actions of faith throughout the year find September rich with reward. It is not merely the turning of the leaves, nor the cooling of the air, but the spiritual symbolism of harvest, the culmination of unseen forces working together to bring forth visible supply. Fruition is the natural outcome of alignment with law. Nothing appears out of season, every manifestation has its time. September whispers that the time has come, that the waiting is over, that the field once bare now bears fruit in abundance. This is not the moment of planting, nor the moment of tilling the soil, but the moment of gathering. Many labor tirelessly, believing they must force their blessings into existence, yet when aligned with divine timing, the harvest comes with ease. Just as apples ripen on the branch without strain, so too do opportunities ripen before our eyes when we stand in faith. September carries the vibration of readiness, of completion, of the invisible made visible. What was once only a vision, an affirmation, a prayer spoken in the silence, now steps forth boldly into the physical world, clothed in form, ready to be received. Harvest does not come to all alike, for it reveals only what has been sown. Those who have planted fear, doubt, and complaint may reap disappointment, while those who have planted faith, gratitude, and expectancy reap abundance. The law cannot be mocked, it returns to each according to their planting. September is a mirror, reflecting back the sum of thought, word, and deed, yet it also offers a merciful lesson, for even a disappointing harvest awakens the soul to plant differently for the seasons ahead. Fruition is both a reward and a teacher, reminding us that every moment of thought is a seed, and every seed bears fruit in its appointed time. Thus September does not merely bring riches, it brings understanding, showing clearly the link between inner belief and outer experience. In the language of nature, harvest is abundance overflowing. The fields yield more than enough, the baskets strain under the weight of gathered fruit, the barns swell with grain. This imagery is not accidental, it is divine symbolism. Life does not give sparingly, it gives lavishly, extravagantly, pressed down and running over. Fruition is not a meager handful but an overflowing storehouse. September teaches that supply is generous by nature, and when aligned with law, one need never fear lack. The same law that multiplies a single seed into a harvest multiplies a single affirmation into a flow of abundance. Large sums, new opportunities, restored health, joyful relationships, all of these can be harvested when faith has been consistently planted. September is the evidence that nothing planted in truth has been lost, that every good seed produces its rightful return. Fruition carries with it the fragrance of surprise. The farmer plants his crop, yet often the harvest exceeds expectation. So too does the spiritual harvest. What one receives in September may be greater than what was envisioned, arriving through channels unforeseen, bearing blessings unimagined. Divine law delights in multiplying the harvest, adding increase to every good seed. A small act of faith may yield a great return. A single spoken word of affirmation may bring a torrent of provision. A quiet belief may draw forth large sums of money in unexpected ways. Fruition always surpasses the seed, for the seed contains potential far beyond its appearance. A single acorn contains within it not only a tree but an entire forest. Likewise, a single affirmation of abundance contains within it not only provision for today, but wealth for generations. September reminds us of the hidden potential in every seed, of the greatness contained in even the smallest act of faith. Harvest is also joy, the joy of seeing the fruits of labor, the joy of holding in one's hand what was once only held in imagination. September is a celebration, not of effort alone, but of trust rewarded, of patience fulfilled, of divine law proving itself faithful. This joy is not shallow. It is the deep gladness that comes from knowing that the universe is ordered, that supply is certain, that nothing good is ever lost. The farmer may dance in his field, the gatherer may sing as she fills her basket, for both know the faithfulness of law. Likewise, the soul rejoices when fruition comes, for it feels the certainty of divine promise. Joy itself is a magnet, drawing even more abundance into the field of experience, for gratitude multiplies what is received. September is therefore not only the month of receiving, but the month of rejoicing, of magnifying blessings by the energy of thanksgiving. To mark harvest is to recognize divine timing. Many grow weary in the waiting, forgetting that every seed has its appointed hour. Yet September shows that nothing is delayed, it only ripens according to law. The apple does not ripen in spring, nor does the grain mature in winter. To demand fruition before its time is to invite disappointment, but to rest in patience is to be rewarded with abundance. September teaches trust in divine timing, reminding us that everything unfolds in perfect sequence, that no good thing is ever withheld, that every rightful desire finds expression at the appointed hour. The impatience of summer yields to the satisfaction of fall, and the waiting soul finds its fulfillment. Fruition is also completeness. September gathers the scattered energies of the year into a single moment of realization. What began as thought has now become form. What was invisible has become visible. What was hoped for has become tangible. This completeness is a divine seal, a confirmation that the law works unfailingly, that faith is never wasted, that every good intention bears fruit in its time. September is the month when this completeness is felt most deeply, when the cycle is fulfilled, and the soul knows with certainty that abundance is real, constant and secure. Money is living energy responsive to faith. It is not cold, lifeless paper nor static numbers written in ledgers, but a vibrant current that flows like electricity, eager to move, eager to serve, eager to manifest wherever belief allows. To many, money appears inert, as though it must be forced from the world through endless effort, bargaining, or struggle. Yet in truth, it is a dynamic expression of universal substance, infused with the same creative vitality that animates the stars, the rivers, and the breath of life itself. Money, like all energy, responds not to fear, doubt, or clinging, but to clarity, confidence, and expectancy. Where there is faith, money gathers. Where there is fear, it scatters. Where there is joy, it multiplies. Where there is complaint, it contracts. To understand this is to step into harmony with the law of supply. For one then ceases to treat money as a cruel master and begins to command it as a faithful servant. Faith is the magnetic force that directs this living energy. Just as a magnet draws iron without strain, so too does faith draw money from the unseen into the seen. One need not chase money endlessly, for that is the behavior of one who believes money is outside their control. But the soul that stands in faith knows that money is obedient, that it listens, that it takes shape according to the mold of belief. When one speaks words of certainty, large sums of money are now flowing to me freely and abundantly. The energy of money stirs, quickens, and rushes to obey. It does not question, it does not delay, it simply responds to the vibration of conviction. Doubt, however, weakens the signal, scattering energy like seeds blown to the wind. Faith concentrates, gathers, directs, while doubt disperses and withholds. This is why two people in identical circumstances may experience vastly different outcomes. One aligns with money as responsive energy, the other treats it as a rigid obstacle. Faith opens the gates, fear closes them. Money is not moral or immoral, it is neutral, awaiting the command of thought and word. In the hands of fear, it dwindles, for fear cannot hold what it distrusts. In the hands of greed, it slips away, for greed repels by clinging too tightly. But in the hands of faith, it flourishes, for faith is expansive and generous. Money mirrors the consciousness of its possessor. If one believes it is scarce, it behaves as scarce. If one believes it flows easily, it behaves as flowing. If one blesses money, it multiplies. If one curses it, it diminishes. This is why faith is essential. Faith sets the tone. Faith determines the pattern. Faith shapes the outcome. Money is not a distant power dictating terms to humanity. It is a servant awaiting direction. The question is not whether money will respond, but what command it has been given. Faith commands increase, fear commands decrease. The living nature of money is evident in how it moves. It is never stagnant but always in circulation. It moves from hand to hand, from account to account, from nation to nation, like blood flowing through the veins of the world. To hoard it in fear is to dam the current, and a dammed river breeds stagnation. To release it with confidence is to keep the current alive, ensuring its return multiplied. Those who give in faith never lack, for they understand that money, like energy, seeks circulation. It returns to its source, magnified by its journey. But those who grip it in fear find it slipping away, for money resists bondage. Faith knows that release is not loss but expansion, that every outflow invites an inflow, that giving is the proof of trust and the magnet of return. Money thrives where it is treated as living energy, not as a lifeless possession to be buried away. Faith transforms the relationship with money from pursuit to partnership. The fearful chase after it, pleading for its favor, believing themselves at its mercy. But the faithful command it, speak to it, bless it, and watch it respond. Faith does not beg for money, it affirms it. Faith does not say, I need, it says, I have. Faith does not wonder if money will come. It knows money is already on its way, already present in the unseen, already responsive to the vibration of belief. Just as light responds instantly when a switch is flipped, money responds instantly to the switch of faith. The manifestation may take form through channels, jobs, opportunities, gifts, unexpected avenues, but the energy is already moving the moment faith is spoken. Money, like all energy, obeys the command it receives without hesitation. This truth dissolves the illusion of chance or luck. Money does not arrive by accident, nor does it disappear by coincidence. It flows according to law, responding precisely to the consciousness of the individual. One who holds thoughts of constant lack will find lack multiplied. One who holds thoughts of continual supply will find supply multiplied. The difference is not in the outer world, but in the inner vibration. Faith is the key that turns the invisible into the visible, the unseen into the seen. Without faith, money appears capricious, unpredictable, untrustworthy. With faith, money reveals its true nature as obedient, dependable, and abundant. Just as a gardener trusts the soil to yield fruit when seeds are planted, the faithful trust the universe to yield money when affirmations are spoken. Both operate by the same principle: what is planted inwardly must manifest outwardly. Faith also purifies the motives surrounding money. When one understands money as living energy, they cease to fear it, worship it, or despise it. They see it as a servant, not a master. They see it as a means, not an end. They see it as a symbol of divine provision, not as a source of identity or worth. This clarity allows money to flow freely, unburdened by the weight of superstition or false belief. Money is not to be chased nor resisted, but embraced as part of the great stream of life. Faith allows one to bless money, to welcome it joyfully, to use it wisely, and to release it confidently, knowing it always returns. The energy of money thrives where it is honored, respected, and treated as alive. Money is living energy, and it delights in movement, expansion, and multiplication. It does not shrink in the presence of faith. It grows. It does not retreat before confidence, it advances. It does not hide from gratitude, it reveals itself. Faith is the current that directs this energy, and without it, money drifts aimlessly, appearing scarce or absent. With faith, money becomes abundant, present, and obedient. To see money in this way is to dissolve struggle, to replace fear with certainty, to step into harmony with divine law. Faith is the language money understands, the command it obeys, the vibration it responds to without fail. Supply exists first in the unseen, then manifests. The visible world is only the final expression of an invisible order, a shadow cast by the eternal light of spirit. Every form, every object, every sum of money, every opportunity is first born in the realm of thought, imagination, and vibration before it appears in tangible substance. What we see with our physical eyes is simply the harvest of what has been cultivated in the invisible. To believe only in appearances is to live as one who stares at the fruit but forgets the seed. To understand that supply exists first in the unseen is to place confidence in the origin of all manifestation, knowing that the invisible always precedes and governs the visible. Faith is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. Without faith, the unseen remains intangible and unrealized potential. With faith, the unseen takes shape, crystallizing into experiences, possessions, and events. This is why faith is called the evidence of things not seen, for it is the certainty that what exists invisibly must inevitably appear. The farmer who plants a seed cannot see the plant in its fullness, yet he knows it exists already within the seed, waiting only for time and nourishment to reveal it. So it is with supply. The wealth, the health, the opportunities, the love, all are contained in the unseen seed of spirit, waiting for faith to call them forth. Supply is not created when it appears, it is only revealed. The manifestation is simply the unveiling of what was already true in the invisible. To live in alignment with this law is to cease worrying over appearances. The world may declare lack, the bank account may appear empty. The opportunities may seem absent, yet in the unseen the supply is full, abundant, and overflowing. The physical eyes may see desert, but the spiritual vision perceives the wellspring beneath. Those who cling to appearances panic and despair, but those who know the unseen rest in calm assurance. They speak as if it were already done, for in truth it is. They affirm abundance while others lament scarcity, and soon their faith clothes the unseen with visible form. Supply cannot be denied, for it already exists. The only question is whether one will align with it in thought, word, and expectation. Every thought is a seed planted in the unseen. Words water these seeds, and feelings provide the sunlight that nourishes them. In time, the invisible planting becomes visible harvest. This is why careless words and fearful thoughts bring forth lack, while affirmations of abundance bring forth prosperity. The law does not discriminate, it simply reproduces what is planted. If one sows fear, the unseen responds with scarcity made visible. If one sows faith, the unseen responds with supply made visible. The invisible is the womb of creation, and it faithfully delivers whatever it is given to carry. The wise therefore guard their thoughts, speak words of life, and expect only good, knowing that the unseen will take their inner pattern and cast it into form. Supply is not limited by the channels through which it manifests. A paycheck, a client, a gift, an idea. These are merely vehicles, not the source. The source is always the unseen, the infinite substance that fills all things. To confuse the channel with the source is to live in fear, for channels change. Jobs may end, businesses may shift, relationships may alter. But the unseen supply never diminishes, never wavers, never fails. When one channel closes, the unseen source simply opens another. To rest in the unseen is to never fear loss, for the flow is eternal. Supply is like water underground, invisible to the eye but certain and abundant. The well may dry in one place, but the spring continues to flow, waiting to be tapped in another. The faith-filled do not cling to channels. They remain attuned to the unseen source that creates new avenues of provision. The manifestation of supply is often sudden, as though appearing out of nowhere, but in truth it was always present in the unseen. It is like the moment a bud bursts into flower. To the casual eye, the flower seems to have appeared in a single day, yet in reality it was forming quietly, invisibly, long before it opened. So it is with money, opportunities, and blessings. They form in the unseen, called forth by affirmation and faith, until one day they emerge into visibility. The world calls it sudden fortune or luck, but those who understand know it is the inevitable blossoming of seeds long planted in the unseen. Nothing appears by accident, everything unfolds according to law. This principle frees the soul from fear and struggle. There is no need to chase supply frantically, for it already exists. There is no need to force outcomes, for they are already forming invisibly. The work is not in striving outwardly but in aligning inwardly. To affirm abundance, to visualize prosperity, to give thanks for supply unseen is the true labor, and it is a labor of faith, not of strain. Just as the seed does not push the soil with panic, but unfolds steadily according to its pattern, so too do blessings emerge naturally when faith is steady. The unseen is always at work, whether one perceives it or not. To trust this is to find peace even in apparent lack, for one knows lack is only temporary appearance, never eternal truth. The unseen is abundant beyond measure. Every idea, every invention, every opportunity, every form of wealth already exists in potential, waiting to be drawn forth. Supply is not created out of nothing, it is revealed from the inexhaustible storehouse of spirit. When one calls upon this storehouse with confidence, it responds. When one doubts, it waits, for doubt withholds the call. Faith is the key that unlocks the treasury of the unseen, and gratitude is the hand that receives it. Those who understand this principle are never shaken by temporary appearances, for they know the unseen is always richer than the seen, always fuller, always ready to overflow into manifestation. Supply exists first in the unseen, then manifests. To know this is to live in calm expectancy, never doubting, never fearing, always affirming, always receiving. The visible world is but a shadow, the unseen is the substance. One who places their trust in appearances will always be unsettled, for appearances shift like sand. But one who places their trust in the unseen stands secure, for the unseen is eternal, inexhaustible, and sure. Every blessing, every sum of money, every opportunity has its roots in the invisible, and faith is the bridge by which it steps forth into the light of day. Fear blocks abundance. Faith unlocks it. Fear is the great wall that rises between the soul and its supply, shutting off the flow of good that is already prepared and waiting. It whispers lies of limitation, telling us that there is not enough, that opportunities are scarce, that wealth belongs to others but not to us. Fear creates shadows where there is light, deserts where there are rivers, emptiness where there is fullness. It paralyzes the mind, narrows vision, and shuts the heart. In the presence of fear, abundance is withheld, not because supply has diminished, but because fear has closed the door of acceptance. The universe is ever ready to pour blessings, yet fear clutches tight, refusing to receive, refusing to believe, refusing to allow. Faith, however, swings wide the door. Where fear contracts, faith expands. Where fear doubts, faith affirms. Where fear resists, faith allows. Faith is the golden key that unlocks the treasure house, inviting abundance to flow freely and without obstruction. Fear operates by creating false images. It paints pictures of failure, loss, poverty, and disappointment, and the mind, believing these images, projects them into experience. It is not the external world that limits abundance, but the inner theater of fear playing its illusions. When one rehearses worry day after day, the energy of creation is directed toward lack, and the invisible begins to mold itself accordingly. Fear is a magnet for what it dreads. It calls forth scarcity because it believes in scarcity. It invites loss because it expects loss. The law of mind does not discriminate, it simply produces in accordance with belief. Fear is belief inverted, faith placed in the wrong direction. It is faith in absence, faith in lack, faith in failure. What one fears most is often what one experiences, not because life is cruel, but because law is precise. The mind has been given creative power, and it brings forth what it continually dwells upon. Faith, by contrast, creates true images. It sees abundance where none is visible. It hears opportunity where silence seems to reign. It feels security where appearances suggest risk. Faith holds these images steadily, refusing to waver, until the invisible becomes visible. Faith is magnetic to good, drawing it forth in exact proportion to belief. Where fear blocks, faith releases. Where fear binds, faith frees. Faith does not beg for abundance, it knows abundance is already present in the unseen. It affirms, it expects, it rejoices, and in doing so, it aligns the individual with the law of supply. Just as a key turns a lock with ease, faith unlocks doors that fear keeps shut. The wealth, the opportunities, the large sums of money, the open doors, they all exist already in potential. Faith calls them into manifestation. Fear drives them away. Fear is a contraction of spirit, a tightening that says, there is not enough. Faith is an expansion, an opening that declares, there is more than enough. The difference is vast, yet subtle, for both operate inwardly long before results are seen outwardly. When fear is entertained, the body feels it: tension, heaviness, restlessness. These are signals that the flow of abundance is being obstructed. When faith is embraced, the body responds with ease, lightness, and vitality. These are signs that the channel is clear and the flow of good is unhindered. One can test this principle at any moment. Think fearful thoughts of lack and notice how heavy the spirit feels. Then speak words of faith and abundance, and observe how quickly energy shifts. The inner state determines the outer flow, and faith is the state that aligns with plenty. Fear often disguises itself as caution, realism, or practicality, yet beneath the mask it is still disbelief. It says, be careful, for there may not be enough, or, do not expect too much, lest you be disappointed. Such thoughts sound wise to the world, but they are chains that bind abundance. Faith is the courage to expect lavishly, to affirm boldly, to believe in unseen supply even when appearances contradict. Faith does not deny appearances, but it refuses to be ruled by them. It looks beyond the immediate to the eternal, beyond the visible to the invisible, beyond the limited to the limitless. Where fear whispers, what if it doesn't happen? Faith proclaims, it is already happening. This certainty unlocks abundance, for the universe responds not to hesitation but to conviction. Fear hoards, believing that to give is to lose. Faith releases, knowing that to give is to multiply. Fear clings tightly to every coin, terrified it will not return. Faith opens the hand, trusting that every outflow invites an inflow. Fear measures and counts, living in constant calculation. Faith rests and rejoices, living in expectancy. The fearful heart sees money as scarce and fleeting, and so it slips away. The faithful heart sees money as abundant and circulating, and so it increases. Fear builds walls, faith builds channels. Fear says, hold on tightly. Faith says, let it flow. Where fear blocks, faith unlocks, and the abundance of life rushes in to fill every need. Fear cannot coexist with gratitude, for gratitude is the language of faith. Gratitude says, I already have, I already am provided for, I already live in abundance. This attitude unlocks greater supply, for the law multiplies what is praised. Fear, by contrast, complains, criticizes, and laments, and thus multiplies what it despises. To shift from fear to faith is to shift from complaint to gratitude, from lack to plenty, from blockage to flow. Gratitude transforms the heart, dissolving fear and amplifying faith, until abundance becomes natural. Every word of thanks is a declaration of faith, every act of appreciation a key that unlocks more good. Fear weakens vision. It causes one to see only obstacles, problems, and closed doors. Faith sharpens vision. It reveals opportunities, solutions, and open pathways. Fear blinds the eye to what is possible, but faith opens it wide to endless possibilities. Where one person sees impossibility, another, guided by faith, sees divine provision. The difference is not in the world, but in the lens through which it is viewed. Fear looks through the lens of scarcity and finds it everywhere. Faith looks through the lens of abundance and discovers it in every place, in every circumstance, in every season. This is why two individuals can face the same situation, one failing miserably under the weight of fear, the other prospering gloriously by the power of faith. Fear is resistance to divine law, while faith is alignment with it. The law of abundance flows ceaselessly, like a great river, yet fear dams the current. Faith removes the dam and allows the river to rush forward with power. Fear believes in separation, as though one were cut off from source. Faith believes in unity, knowing that one is never apart from the infinite supply. Fear says, I am alone. Faith says, I am sustained. Fear says, it may not happen. Faith says, it cannot fail. The difference is life-changing, for one contracts the soul, while the other expands it into limitless supply. Fear blocks abundance, faith unlocks it. This principle governs every area of life: money, relationships, health, and opportunity. Fear keeps doors closed, faith opens them. Fear binds, faith liberates. Fear drains energy, faith empowers. Fear builds lack, faith builds prosperity. To choose fear is to choose limitation, to choose faith is to choose expansion. Fear is the shadow, faith is the light. Fear believes in absence, faith believes in presence. Fear prepares for loss, faith prepares for increase. The one who lives in fear experiences constant barriers, but the one who lives in faith walks through doors that swing wide with ease.